Hello, children. Welcome back. Today, in this module, I will be teaching you about reported speech, which is a very important topic for English grammar. Here, I will be teaching you how to change from direct speech to indirect speech. So, reported speech, children, as you all know, means direct and indirect speech. Either we call it direct and indirect speech, or we call it reported speech, or we call it narration. So, in this module, you will get to know some tips which you can use it for transforming a sentence from direct speech to indirect speech. So without much delay, as per always I tell you all, sit down with your notebook and your pen so that you can write down the tips instead of taking screenshots. That will help you later on. But rather than that, I prefer that all of you should write it down so that you can use it when you're solving the sentences. To start with, I will be starting with the definitions. So first I will start with the definition of your direct speech. Direct speech is always the words, direct words of the speaker. It is always inside the inverted commas, and always in direct speech, the punctuation marks are used. This is how you can identify whether the sentence given to you is in direct speech or not. If the sentence is in direct speech, it will always be in the inverted commas. Punctuation marks will be used. For example, question mark, exclamation. All this will be used only when the sentence is in direct speech. Now coming back to indirect speech, obviously it will be just the opposite of your direct speech and indirect speech. It is not the direct speech of the speaker. The speaker is changed. The speaker will be telling what the first person is told. It will be in the form of the third person here. The speech will always be indirect here. No punctuation marks will be used here. Your sentence, when you have converted to indirect speech, will never have any punctuation mark, whether it is your question mark, exclamation, or inverted commas. A sentence, when you convert an indirect speech, you always have to remember, children, that it will always end with a full stop. So coming back to the tense, we have to always change the tense. Now all this I will be explaining you step by step. First, let us look at rule number one, that is the change of tense. I have given you simple example which will help you remember the tense and how it is changed. In direct speech, I've given you an example, children. Yash said, I am coming. Now, children, by looking at the sentence, you know that the sentence given to you is in which tense? Yes, of course you know, because we already did in the previous module the tenses. So here you know which tense the sentence is. The sentence is in present continuous tense. So when we are changing it to indirect speech, the sentence changes. Present continuous always becomes past continuous. Am coming becomes was coming. Of course, change of person will be there. And the inverted commas, as I told you already, indirect speech always ends with a full stop. So the sentence becomes, Yash said that he was coming. So this is your change of tenses. All the tenses of present goes converted to past tense. So you have to remember, children, whenever we are changing from direct to indirect speech, read the sentence, find out in which tense it is given. Then you have to change it to the intermediate tense of the past. If the sentence is in simple present tense, it changes to simple past tense. If it is in present continuous, it becomes past continuous, and likewise. But you have to remember, I will be telling you, just come to the next slide. Coming more in details about the tense, report using present and future tense. Now, if you have the present and future tense, that is your habitual actions, here you should be a little careful, children. Look at this sentence which I gave you. The teacher said the sun rises in the east. Now, this is also in present tense, but here I will not be changing it in indirect speech because this is a truth, universal truth, which we call it. So the sentence does not change its tense. So report using present and future tense. So you have to be very careful. Read the sentence. If it is an universal truth or an habitual action, we cannot change the tense. We just have to remove the inverted commas and rewrite the sentence using the connector that. If the original speaker's present and future is still present and future, it doesn't changes at all. It remains present and future only. In other words, the tense here is unchanged. So I told you in the previous slide that we have to change the tense. And here, what did I say to you? That we do not change the tense if the sentence given to you is a habitual action or an universal truth. Then the tense remains the same. So please be careful when you're doing. Please read the sentence and find out whether it's a universal truth or a habitual action. Second, change of pronouns. Now the pronouns too gets changed. And what do I mean when I'm talking about it? I'll be giving you again one example. Yash said, see, I have highlighted the pronoun. Yash said, I am coming. In indirect speech, it will become Yash said that he was coming. Now, this is am coming and was coming. I already told you in the previous slide. So here you know that the tense will also. So every step, one changes I'm showing you. So please don't forget whatever changes you're doing in the previous slide. You have to continue in this slide also, the next sentence. Here I'm showing you how you are changing the person. I becomes he. I told you the direct speech is the direct speaker's conversation, and indirect speech becomes the transferred speech. It is not, the person does not directly, we are not quoting the direct words of the speaker, we are just transferring the speech from the speaker. Coming to the next slide. After the change of persons, we will come to change of situations. Very, very important, children. Change of situation. Again, you read the sentence and find out in which situation it is given. Is it today, yesterday, day before? So there we have to change the words. In direct speech, if the sentence is, John said, I did this exercise last night. In direct speech, it will become, John said that he had done that exercise the previous night. I will give you also a list of words which gets converted to how. But here, can you see the changes clearly which I have highlighted to? This becomes that. Last night becomes the previous night. And of course, the tense I already told you, did is in past tense, so it becomes past perfect tense, had done. Last night becomes previous night. So children, did you understand change of situation? Of course, I will give you a table now, which will help you to remember all the words and how do they get changed. Now here, this is the other examples as I was telling you. Now look at the list. I've given you a whole lot of lists. This will help you remember how the words gets changed from direct speech to indirect speech. This becomes that, here becomes there, now becomes then, today becomes that day, yesterday becomes the day before or the previous day. Tomorrow becomes the next day, last week becomes the week before, or the previous week, next month becomes the following month, and ago becomes before. So this is how we change it. We have to remember the points while changing. Now, this is very important as per the type of sentence. Now, students, if you get a sentence in your examination, you need to first identify this question given to you, which type of sentence it is. Is it an assertive sentence? Because students always make the mistake. They have a habit from direct speech to indirect speech. Everywhere they use the connector that. But that is absolutely wrong. You use connector that only for two types of sentence, assertive sentence and exclamatory sentence. In the other sentence, the connector that is never used. So you should remember this, and this will help you when you are solving the sentences also for your exams. So let us see, in assertive sentence, we use the connector that, and the reported verbs can be changed to said and told. Coming back to the next type of sentence, interrogative. Now, this is little dicey, children, because here you have two types of interrogative sentence. One, which has a helping verb or maybe a yes or no type question, which we call. So, if the question is a yes or no type, or if the question starts with a helping verb, you have to use the connector if or whether. But if the question starts with a WH word, then you have to repeat the WH word and use it as the connector to join the sentence. I will tell you what I had meant by this by giving some examples in the next slide. But as of now, please remember this reported verbs. You have to change it. Most probably it is already given in your question, but sometimes it is not given. You have to change it. You can use the words like asked, questioned, inquired, depending on the mood of the sentence. Then coming to the next type of sentence, imperative, which is your order, request, or command type of sentence. Here too, we are not using the connector that. We use to or not to. And then the reported verbs used here is ordered, requested, commanded, pleaded, etc. Finally, we come to the exclamatory sentence. Of course, here we use the connector that, and we can also use the reported verb exclaimed in, exclaimed with, exclaimed in pain, exclaimed with happiness, or exclaimed in happiness, exclaimed in grief. So you have to remember the two prepositions, which is very important, in and with. So I hope this table you have understood, children. Please remember every single changes you are making in your changing from direct speech to indirect speech. You are getting your half marks. If you make the full sentence wrong, then your full 2 marks goes, or else every single changes you have made, you are getting your half marks. So please read the question thoroughly, identify which type of sentence it is, and accordingly make the changes. Now, here I'll be telling you the interrogative sentence in explicitly. For interrogative sentence, as I told you, we have two types of interrogative sentence. One, yes or no type of question, or the questions which start with a helping verb. And secondly, we have the WH type of question. So what rule do we follow? In direct speech, with an example I'll be showing you, Yash asked her, "Are you coming?" So this is starting with helping verb are. So this is your yes or no type of question, or else the question can be, yes, Yash asked, "Where is Mary?" So this here, where is your WH type of question. So the answers, just see how did I change it. Yash asked if she was coming. Are you coming? Are coming. That means it is in present continuous. So obviously the tense will change only, children. It will become past continuous. Don't forget that Here I have showed you if and whether as the connector. You are not using the word that after removing the inverted comma. Of course, I told these are the first basic rules. Direct speech is with punctuation mark like a question mark, inverted commas. Indirect speech is without all those. So be careful while revising your paper too. You can see if by mistake you have used the question mark. Of course, if you have omitted the inverted commas and by mistake you have put the question mark, you will not get marks. So please be careful. In indirect speech always ends with a full stop. The second question, Yash asked where Mary was. I told you the connector is the WH word itself. Here you do not need the word that. So here I have given you yes or no type question. Use if or whether. WH question, use the WH word. Now, in the next slide, I'll give you some examples. Change of imperative sentence. Now, imperative sentence, you have order, request, commands, promises, advice, all this. So, what do you do in direct speech? Ram ordered Rohan clean my boots. So, this becomes an indirect speech. Ram ordered Rohan to clean his boots. Did you see, children? I have joined the sentence using to. So here the formation becomes object plus to plus the infinitive form of the verb. Did you understand, children? Now, next slide, we have the rules regarding the modal verbs. If your sentence has certain modal verbs like this, it remains unchanged. Would, should, could, might, ought to, and must. We keep it as it is. We do not change the tense there. Rohan said, I must do my homework now. So the word must remains as it is, but the remaining things we have to change. And when we change it, it becomes that he must do his homework. Now becomes then, children. I hope you remember the list which I gave you. Please learn it. Now is becoming then. Said that I is becoming he. So this is how we are changing. So WH questions. Direct speech, if the question is, my friend asked, where is Venus? Indirect speech will become, my friend asked where Venus was. Is becomes was. Again, some other examples and what exactly we are doing. My friend asked, how are you? It obviously becomes, my friend asked how I was. Now, the transformation process I have explained you very clearly here. Put the subject before the verb. Change the pronoun you to I when you're doing interrogative sentence. Children, join the clauses using how, who, whom, where. That means basically the WH words. Adjust the second verb to the time frame of the first verb. So the second verb gets changed. Now, more WH questions. My friend said, where are you going? Now see children, I have not changed the reported verb here. It is said. But you know that according to the mood of the sentence, it is a question. So you have to change it to asked. My friend asked where I was going. Since it is a WH question, so you have to repeat the WH word as the connector. My friend said, whom did you call? Again, the answer is my friend asked whom I had called. For examples, my friend said whom I was calling. My friend asked whom I had been calling. Was calling becomes had been calling because the sentence already is in past continuous tense. So it will become past perfect continuous tense. Please write it down, children. Past continuous tense becomes past perfect continuous tense. My friend said, where have you been? My friend asked where I had been. He asked me, what did she say? He asked me what she had said. He asked me, when are you leaving? He asked me when I was leaving. So I hope, children, you have understood your direct and indirect speech. Please, if you have any doubts, do ask.